Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together, we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style, because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast today. I'm very excited to be here today and talking to you about this topic. It's been a long time brewing for me, and I have been thinking a lot about what I'm going to talk about today. And it's something that's really, really close to my heart as well, because of my life choices and because of where I'm at. And a whole lot of things have led me to the point where I'm at with this particular topic. So before I launch into the podcast today, I just want to thank you for listening last week, especially after I'd had a 2-week break. So I really appreciate those of you listening. We actually hit 19,000 downloads, which is kind of incredible. And I'm very humbled and very surprised, and also very grateful to all of you who listen. So let's get into the podcast today. And I have labeled this podcast Woman, Alcohol and Midlife, because I notice increasingly in my circles, and I'm a woman over 50, many of you know how old I am, 53, I've been telling you ever since I started the podcast, that there's a lot of alcohol being consumed with women my age. And I just want to talk through some information I've uncovered, some things I've noticed, some of my own experiences, and just what some of the research is telling us about alcohol consumption at this life stage. So yeah, I'm very grateful to those of you who are listening. And this podcast, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a therapist or anything like that, but I just am here to share some of my own insights and some of the research that I have seen and read, which I will tell you about. So why have I wanted to talk about this? In fact, I've wanted to talk about it for a while, and I notice it's not really being talked about by many of the women podcasters out there. They are not addressing this topic. It's not being discussed, and I think there's probably a whole lot of reasons for that. So I'm jumping in the deep end here and actually going to talk about it. And also I'm going to potentially look at interviewing someone around this as well, because I'd like to hear some views from some researchers and people who are working at the coalface of these issues. So first, before I start talking to you about the context, I'll tell you about my own journey with alcohol, just so that those of you who don't know get a bit of an insight. So as a teenager, I drank probably too much. I was a boarder at a boarding school in Timaru, and we had a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. We drank just so we got drunk, and we drank right through from probably the age of 16 onwards. This culture extended into my university days, and sometimes I would drink so that I was not coherent, and sometimes I'd drink so that I ended up vomiting. So not a lot. I wasn't a big drinker like that, but those things did happen to me in the early part of my life when I was a secondary school and a tertiary student through university. I started to realize when I was at university that I didn't love the taste of alcohol. I never developed a taste for wine. And at the time when I was drinking in my youth, we were drinking wine out of wine coolers or big sort of those sacks. You turn on the tap and just put your mouth underneath. So that's what happened. And then into our early married life, I got married in 1996, 30 years ago. We still went out and I still drank, not always in excess, just a little bit here and there. Sometimes I did drink too much. And, I will admit this, and it's not great, and I am very much not proud of it, but I drank through the first 3 of my pregnancies. Not a lot, and I wasn't drinking heavily at all at this point. But recreationally, I went out. I remember when I was pregnant with Bryn, and he's now, sorry, Bryn, he's now nearly 25. I went out and had a red wine in a bar with Dave, and I actually ended up passing out. I only had one. I had a reaction to the red wine, and I was very pregnant and got admitted to hospital. No one even said anything to me about me drinking when I was pregnant with Bryn. So, and then I remember when I got pregnant with Scarlett, some of my friends had another baby shower for me because I'd had two boys and I knew I was having a girl. And I remember consuming a glass of champagne at that baby shower. So, in the time when my children were I was pregnant with my children, we had a little bit of alcohol. So they have actually all turned out okay. I'm very lucky because I now know that's a terrible thing to do. And I didn't do that with my youngest child, Poppy. So she didn't have the alcohol in her system as a baby or a growing baby inside me. And then once I had Poppy, we had the odd occasion when we'd go out and drink or some friends would be around, and alcohol was part of our life. It was part of our life. Quite early on in Poppy's life, I started feeling like when I drank, I couldn't do what I wanted to the next day. So I'd have a bit of a headache. I'm not talking about heavy drinking. I'm talking about 1 or 2 wines with dinner or a little bit of gin and lemonade or whatever it was. So I don't remember the exact date. I honestly don't. But sometime around the time Poppy was 5, probably maybe a little bit earlier than that, I decided I didn't want to drink alcohol anymore. And I hardly ever touch alcohol now. In fact, this year I've had 1 sip of whiskey. And so that's only because I was doing a half marathon in the Mackenzie country at the top of a hill. It was really cold and I'd just run up, so I had to have a wee dram of whiskey. That would be the extent of my alcohol consumption for the whole year, and that might happen once a year. So I consider myself not a drinker anymore, and I do not miss it at all. I do not miss the hangover. I do not miss the feeling of being drunk. I do not miss the taste of the alcohol. I don't miss the aftertaste. I don't miss it making me want to eat more. I don't miss anything about alcohol. So did I to start with? So the answer is a hard yes. So when I first started, it wasn't that I was trying to wean myself off alcohol or that I'd become an alcoholic. There was nothing like that. It was just more a choice about wanting to be present for my children, wanting to wake up feeling good, and just alcohol not agreeing overly with my system. So I would have been in my early to mid 30s when this happened. I had so much social pressure. It was just out the gate. So at the time when I decided to stop drinking, my children were at school. We were socializing a lot with other school parents. There was events where there was alcohol and people would absolutely pressure me. It was really bad. I'm not going to lie. So we were looking at the, late 2000 to 2010, 2011 kind of time, just before the earthquakes, around that time. I must have stopped drinking a little earlier than that. Around that time, people would very much pressured me. They'd say, why are you not drinking? You're so boring. I had so much social pressure, but it just made me more determined not to drink. Because I wanted to get up the next day and function for my family. So social pressure was high. And at that point in time, I was very much an anomaly. There wasn't a culture of people stopping drinking. There was only people who drank. And the people who didn't drink were probably alcoholics. And I didn't consider myself an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking every day. I wasn't drinking even 3 or 4 times a week. I was probably drinking once or twice a week at that point, if not less, right? Just when we had a social engagement. I wasn't one to come home and have a glass of wine. That just never, ever appealed to me or ever felt good or felt like a good thing to do. I'm really lucky I never liked the taste of alcohol, and I still don't really. And I don't love whiskey, but just the odd dram in the middle of a half marathon, and it warmed me up. That's literally it. And I probably won't have any alcohol for the rest of the year. I don't see another occasion where that's going to happen. So that's my story around alcohol. I 100% respect people's choice. And I socialize with many friends who love alcohol. Love alcohol is probably a strong one, but they love wine. They like socializing. It's a really big part of their social engagement. But I know and understand now that drinking alcohol is not overly great for us. So I'm going to go through and talk a bit about some research I've read. I picked up a great article online that was written in 2023, so it's only 3 years old. It was a piece by a woman called Antonia Lyons and Kate Kersey, and they wrote it from the University of Auckland. One of them, I think it was Kate Kersey, was completing her PhD, and they titled their article, which was a discussion piece, "The Problem with Women and Middle-Aged Drinking." And so, some of the things that they highlighted in that article, which really resonated with me, was how in the 90s and the 2000s, we sensationalized the drinking behavior of young women. We said that it was having a wine to relax, all this sort of thing. So that's the time where I was young. So I very much fit into this demographic. I was a student in the 90s. I was my 20s in the 90s, and I developed drinking habits that at the time mine were mild, but a lot of women in my generation matured, and their drinking habits and matured as well. And they were shaped around the roles and responsibilities of their lives. Now, what we're seeing and what this article pointed out is that many of these women who are at midlife, and this is my observation too, are drinking at levels that are really risky to their health, and they're experiencing, in some cases, alcohol-related health conditions or harm. So I'm seeing this in women my age very much that, let's have another wine, let's have another champers, I'm going to drink up, ladies, that kind of culture. And I am not saying this with judgment. Please do not think I am. I'm saying it from observation. I'm seeing this play out in my own social circles. So I just thought it was useful to point out some of the information, some context around this. So there was a survey of New Zealand, a New Zealand Health survey, which looked at the statistics of women drinking, and it showed that actually women aged between 35 and 54, around 16% of them consumed alcohol in a way that carried a risk to their future health, physical or mental health. And I think more men, so obviously around 13 to 16% of women portrayed these behaviours, and men were even higher, right? But I'm talking about, so men were 27 to 29% of men drunk in a risky way. Look, why is this a problem, right? Is it a problem in midlife? Is it a problem full stop? Look, it's a concern because we know now that even one drink per week, just one, and this is usually less than what we averagely pour, just one drink per week is linked with an increased risk to your heart health and so many types of cancer. Oh my goodness, with breast, mouth, throat. And honestly, this just blows my mind, with an increased risk at high consumption levels. So I'm sorry if this is hitting you hard. Kind of hits me hard because I live in this culture and I feel so conflicted about this podcast. I felt really conflicted about talking about it because I just don't want anyone I know who I love, or anyone who drinks a lot, to feel I'm judging you. I'm not. I'm just trying to give you facts, right? But more than one drink a week is linked to cancer and increased heart health risks. Like, seriously, life is a game of dodgeball. And how do we get around that? And literally, if we're drinking, we are putting ourselves right in the firing line. The other thing, I'm sorry to keep loading on the bad news, but alcohol is classed as a type 1 carcinogen, like smoking and asbestos exposure. So asbestos and smoking and alcohol are in the same category, and we are drinking alcohol more than once a week. Are we being exposed to asbestos more than once a week? Are we smoking cigarettes more than once a week? Oh my goodness. So yeah, I feel really, as I said, really conflicted, but I have to share this information because I'm feeling so compelled to put this information out there for my audience because of this epidemic of women our age in my age who are consuming too much alcohol. So women at midlife, often we don't drink. We drink at home. We drink in smaller establishments, and they haven't been researched. This particular article was part of a PhD, as I said, which was completed by Kate Kersey. So you can look her up if you want to read the research information. So why do we drink alcohol? Why were women wanting to consume alcohol? Is for pleasure, for celebration. I coached a woman last year who came to me. I coached her for health reasons, and one of the reasons was I'm drinking too much alcohol. And I coached her for like nearly 6 months, and I kept asking her, what is alcohol giving you? And she kept saying hilarity. Interesting, such an interesting word. And she's such a great lady. She's done so well, by the way. If you're listening, you know who you are. And she kept saying this hilarity, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? She said, I find everything so much funnier when I'm drinking. I'm like, that makes sense, yeah. Yeah. And then I started saying, and I think it was also, there's a whole lot of other reasons, but that was just an observation. So we drink it for pleasure, for celebration. We feel it's more fun and more sociable. It provides some respite from feeling. We're raised in a generation where we're not being taught to feel. Sometimes women have drunk it so that they can have that. Let's say it's the end of the day, I deserve a wine. You deserve to look after yourself, sister. You deserve to take care of that body, especially in midlife. Yeah, it's sometimes seen as like a softener for all of the disruptions, the difficulties, the things that happen in life. So, you're feeling like things are getting too much, and so alcohol's there to be your friend in the moment. And also, there's another thing here, like so many of these wines, I see all of these bougie vodkas, great tonics, lovely gins, that they're marketed at women, specifically women with higher disposable incomes, which tend to be women of older ages or older women. Yeah, and there's more offerings, there's more choice, there's more delicious things. It makes our socializing more fun. We have more color, we have more interest, right? So the marketing is actually directly designed to appeal to independence, empowerment, being successful as a female. It's encouraged as a pastime, a pleasure, and it actually can chemically enhance your alone time. It can make you lubricate in social situations. And it's also something that's portrayed to help us with our complicated lives, where we're trying to take on all of the responsibilities of motherhood, parenting, looking after elderly parents, and actually working. And we socially endorse it. We say, oh, let's have a glass of wine. Let's say we're juggling the kids. Let's just have a glass of wine with another woman. So, yeah, I think, so sorry about, I'm just trying to give you context here. So, again, we increase our risk of breast cancer. We can accelerate heart and liver disease. We can worsen menopausal symptoms. Yeah, because we have differences in metabolism, we process alcohol at a different rate to men, and we suffer harm with less consumption than men. So we've talked a bit about the health risks. We've got cancer risks, breast, bowel, mouth, throat cancers. Alcohol is a non-toxin with no safe limit. So I'm just going to go through this. Liver damage, so faster development of fatty liver disease, alcoholic hepatitis and cirrhosis compared to men. So, this is a sad story. I went to school with a lovely lady, I'm not going to name her, and we went through school together, and she died at the age of 50 from cirrhosis of the liver. Alcoholic, I think even alcoholic hepatitis might have been part of it. She was an alcoholic. She's only 50. Heart and brain. You can develop greater oxidative stress. You can get high blood pressure, heart disease risks, and potentially young onset cognitive issues like dementia. So alcohol is related to all of these. In fact, I was speaking to a friend of mine recently, and they were explaining that their mother has been told that her dementia is related to alcohol consumption. So what happens when we hit midlife? What happens when we hit menopause or perimenopause and we want to drink a little bit more alcohol, we have a little bit more disposable income, all of these delicious wines are available to us, we want to go wine tasting, we want to do this with our friends. What do we do? What are the things that it can affect? Have you ever wondered how you can be a fashion stylist with access to premium digital styling products? Do you want to be trained by the best in the industry and access these products that reflect fashion styling in 2025? If you do, then Image Innovators is absolutely the choice for you. This is because they have a network of over 1,000 trained fashion stylists worldwide, and when you work with them, you're getting the best of the best. They have evidence-based professional training offered by highly skilled facilitators that help you reach your absolute potential. This is a great alignment with Style for Life, as I in my business have used and endorsed their products for over 10 years with so many happy clients. And I'm really excited to say I'm also offering training to fashion stylists in conjunction with image innovators. So if you're ready to start your fashion styling training journey, then use the code BRIGHTRED25 for 10% off all products. So if you're in menopause, it can trigger or worsen hot flushes and night sweats. Actually thinking about it, maybe that's why I got night sweats so early, or before I stopped drinking. Yeah, anyway, it can disrupt your sleep cycles. And the lady I was talking to you about before, who came to me for health coaching with this focus on alcohol, she said to me that she slept terribly after she drank even a couple of glasses of wine. So it disrupts sleep cycles, intensifies anxiety and depressive symptoms. So it affects menopause, sleep and mood. And the big one, it contributes empty calories that hinder midlife weight management. So if you have 2 glasses of wine, it's actually equal to the calories of a lowish calorie meal. Sorry. So if you have 2 glasses of wine and you have a meal, you've consumed a lot of calories. So that's why often women develop a wine belly, or they develop weight around their midsection. So menopause and alcohol together, terrible combination for growing fat around the midsection of the body. So yeah, weight gain's another big problem in midlife. Why are we doing this? This is one of the reasons. I mean, I gave you some context about our history, but why are we actually using alcohol? So one of the reasons identified in my research was stress and emotional overload. So we get to this point in the day where, everyone's wanting me. I've been working. There's so much going on. I'm going to use a glass of wine to unwind and take the edge off my busy day, right? You might have life pressures. So you're demanding, you've got a really busy career, like I said, aging parents, family dynamics, emotional loads, life pressure. You think alcohol's going to help. You might feel like it's freedom to drink a glass of wine. So you're reclaiming some personal time where you're quieting your mind. It's not negating that alcohol does do all of these things, but realistically, it's super, super short term, right? So I think sometimes people also use alcohol to try and manage menopausal symptoms, which doesn't actually work very well. So when we look at menopause and alcohol consumption and hormonal shifts, there's some things in here to talk about. So there's a physiological feedback loop. So when your estrogen declines, this changes how your body processes alcohol. So your estrogen, all your hormones work together metabolically to help you process food and alcohol. So when you have your estrogen going down, we process alcohol differently, which can mean that our hot flashes and our night sweats and our brain fog can increase or worsen. And we might want to use alcohol to numb that discomfort. Again, alcohol is a good number because you forget. We also have a culture where we normalise heavy drinking. We make it kind of glamorous. We're saying, I'm a wine mum, or come around for a glass of wine after work, or come around after school. Like, most people don't say that to me anymore because they know that I won't drink wine. And I sometimes say, I won't be boring. I can still be fun. I'm happy to be who I am without alcohol. And I think we often lose our self-esteem because our roles shift. We have had all these kids around, our friendships disappear, or they change because, the kids leave or whatever. And then all of a sudden we don't feel as good about ourselves. We feel like we need alcohol to help prop us up socially. So all of these things can contribute to heavier social drinking habits. So what can we do about it? And is it possible to change? And look, I can tell you now that it is very possible to change this. And it's very possible to have a really fun, full, great life with a teeny bit of alcohol or a little bit of alcohol or no alcohol whatsoever. I can tell you from personal experience. And I do attribute the way I feel, the way I show up, the way my energy is, the way that my skin is, everything, much of it to the fact that I don't consume alcohol. And I think it makes such a big difference. I feel like alcohol and I are just not friends. But I get it if it's your best friend, and I do understand there's plenty of places that can help. So let's look at how we can cut down on alcohol, some practical tips, because I know it can be really tricky when it's been part of your routine, part of your habit, and part of your social lubricant to help you feel like you can relax into a social situation, especially when we are acknowledging nowadays a little more social anxiety. So here's some practical steps to cut down on alcohol. So and one of my kids actually does this. He's very, very measured about it. He sets a clear limit. He wants to keep track of how many drinks he's going to consume, and he keeps track of it. So he actually notes it. I've actually known him to write the number of drinks. I'm writing, pointing down my arm and pointing right down my arm to, put a little marker pen on his arm so he knows how many he's had, so he can keep track of it, particularly if you've got an addictive personality or you're somebody who struggles to say no or know when to stop. Just set some clear limits. I've said to two of my clients who I've coached around this, because it's a big part of their lives, don't drink alcohol at home. So alcohol's for outside the home, so never at home. In fact, I've had like the most coolest parties here as an adult with no alcohol. In fact, I think I had a New Year's Eve party here a few years ago with some of my great friends, and we didn't drink. How good was that? So good. And when none of us even missed it, oh man, I'm so lucky I had some friends like that. However, I've been to many alcohol-fueled New Year's Eve parties and still had a great time, and everyone else does as well. Okay, so what else do we want to do? We want to make sure that we identify our triggers. So what is actually triggering us to alcohol? Is it because we can't cope with stress? Are we feeling anxious? Are we not sleeping? Is it social pressure? And remember I told you the social pressure was huge on me. And I'm not even friends with those people nowadays, because they didn't respect me or my wishes. They just felt insecure about their own drinking and wanted me to drink so they didn't feel so bad about their overconsumption. I can tell you now who's doing better now. It's definitely me. Swap the habit. So if you feel like you need a drink, like I don't know if any of you know, but I have this cup. It's kind of a beaten up now. My magnificent friend Mel gave it to me. It's a metal cup. I have a metal straw in it. I just have water in it. I don't generally drink out of it while I'm doing my podcast because it clanks and bangs, but it's full of water and it's 500 mils. And I love this. I have it every night at dinner. I sit down. So have a little ceremonial drink, whatever you want, a non-alcoholic option, and herbal tea, sparkling water with fruit, something like that's really healthy. No calories if that's a problem for you, or even a mocktail. I'll go out sometimes and I'll have a mocktail. Love it. Really enjoyable part of the evening. So how do we manage midlife stress, which is often a reason for drinking alcohol? So just the usual things. I know, nothing new here. Try regular physical activity, yoga, mindfulness, something to handle the daily stress rather than alcohol as a quick fix. So what is it that's overwhelming you? What are the feelings that you're feeling? What's the craving you're having? Can you be with that? Yeah? Prioritize sleep. Focus on good sleep routines, like because reducing alcohol helps improve your rest. It helps improve your night sweats. I'm on HRT in a large dose. I'll give you all an update on my HRT menopause journey in another podcast. But basically, I am on a lot of HRT, which has all been ratified and gone through the doctor. But I still get the odd hot flash. So I'll wake up as soon as in the morning as I'm waking up. But it's not bad. But alcohol can make that bad. So you want to try and get good sleep. So get good sleep. Try and get a decent sleep, and then you won't feel as tired. It's more likely to want alcohol, or a pick-me-up. Sugar's another thing we often go for. Maybe I'll talk about sugar in the next podcast. So how do we deal with this? We might need some professional help. Literally talk to your doctor, your primary caregiver, somebody else who you know about menopause if that's what it's about, or just about alcohol, your midlife symptoms, how you might be managing it, or if you think you actually have an issue. And look, honestly, if you need an issue, speak with somebody who can help you. It might be a therapist who understands midlife transitions. I actually have a really good sister who is a psychologist, and she does a lot of therapy. She's a really great lady. So if anyone wants to know of a really good psychologist, she's just taking on new clients. She does specialize in neurodiversity. So if you want to know a bit more about that, just message me, DM me, and I can give you her details. She's awesome. But if you do want a therapist who understands midlife and alcohol use, they're there to help. They understand this. And if you are drinking most nights, you probably need to think about your alcohol consumption. Think about your life future. Think about who are you doing this for? Where do you want to be? How do you want to live your life? Do you want to die of something that could be terrible? Do you want to be there for your children if you have them? Do you want to be there for your partner? How's alcohol serving you in your life? And if it's serving you fine, you feel good, that's absolutely fine. It's absolutely your choice. But I just really want to shed light on this topic, open the conversation about alcohol. I'd love to hear some comments from you about this. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on alcohol, what your thoughts are on drinking, and the consumption of alcohol for women, age 35 to sort of 60, and whether you think and you observe that it's becoming very socially acceptable and encouraged, and what your thoughts are about the long-term health implications of this, because it's definitely something that's on my mind all the time. Look, I really appreciate you listening to this podcast. I hope this has in no way been triggering for you, and if it has, I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, apologize. I just want to reiterate, I'm not a medical specialist here, and I'm not a therapist. I'm just sharing information that I've found, research that I've looked into, and sharing my own experience and views. But I very much appreciate you listening to the podcast. I am blown away, like I say, by all of you who download and listen. I would love to hear what you have to say about alcohol. And again, if you want to follow me on any of my social platforms, if you want some counselling, please do seek some help. Please, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is also a great place to go if you do need some help, AA. And if you want some health coaching and some help with some alcohol issues or some alcohol consumption, feel free to reach out and I'll tell you whether I'm able to help you or I need to refer you to someone else, which I do commonly do. But anyway, I really appreciate you listening to the podcast today. Please follow me on socials. Please follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and on TikTok. So I appreciate all of your listening. Have a wonderful week. Kia kaha, and until next time. Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.